Dave Calabro with IBJ's Playmakers. Let 'em hear ya. Hey, today we got a big one. That funny guy. I don't know what he does or how he makes money. Joey Mulinaro. Don't you love it? Coming up next on my very special episode of Playmakers. Let 'em hear ya.
Hi, I'm Dave Calabro, and I've covered some of the biggest moments in sports. But the stories that matter most are the ones that you rarely hear, because the game is decided long before the final whistle or the checkered flag. These are the people who make the big plays. Welcome to Playmakers, brought to you by Indiana Members Credit Union.
This is Paul. He loves running, music, and DIY home projects. In fact, he's remodeling his kitchen thanks to a home equity line of credit from Indiana Members Credit Union. They connected him with a loan officer, got him approved at a great low rate, and made it easy for him to make his monthly payment from anywhere thanks to IMCU's digital banking. Looks like Paul can do it all with a little help from IMCU.
Hey, everybody, welcome. Let 'em hear ya. It's Playmakers. I don't know what you're doing, but you might be off work today. We won't tell.
Who are you? What are you doing?
Just having a fun time with Dave Calabro.
Can you believe this guy? Hi, everybody. Welcome to Playmakers. I'm Dave Calabro. Joey Mulinaro is joining us. If you've never heard this guy, he's a comedian, creator. What else do you do?
I hate that creator term. It's so disappointing. Anytime I get introduced as a creator, I'm like, people are tuning out automatically now.
That.
You do?
I do. It's a broad-ranging term.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It just feels like I can just hear the groan of everybody over like 38 that's just like, this guy couldn't make it in the actual industry, so he's a creator now. But I mean, I guess it is. I mean, it's a big industry. A lot of money to be made out there.
Okay, this guy does impersonations. If you've never heard him, seen him, you got to check it out. So back in May, I worked at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I'm on the microphone each and every day.
Yeah.
Well, I don't assume people know that after 40 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I had an afternoon off, and I was on my tractor cutting grass in my own world, and my phone in my pocket is just like vibrating, like nonstop. And I'm like, what the hell's going? Something happened. Something big's going on. So I stop and I look, and I've got all these texts from people saying, have you seen this? And it's this guy impersonating me. My sons who both live in D.C. were both blowing up my phone. I all of a sudden had street cred because you
street cred, man. You're thinking, something big like Peyton Manning's coming to be the GM of the Colts or something, or nah, it's just this guy in his car doing a Dave Calabro impression.
Hilarious.
But thanks, man. No, and you know what? I always say that because people ask me a lot, and they say, or they ask, have you met people that you do impressions of? Is it weird when you talk to people you do impressions of? And I always say that the people that I typically do impressions of are all people that I'm a big fan of. And I've taken the time to want to listen to them and take in their work. So really, I try to look at it as a compliment to you. I mean, I'm out at IMS all day, every day for the whole month of May. That's all we hear over the PA is Dave Calabro, is you and Alan up there having a grand old time. And it sounds like you are having a great time. And that's one of the things that I appreciate the most. So yeah, it was the middle of May. And, some days I'm kind of just like, what can I do? And I was like, you know what? I've been doing a Calabro like at the track to like Hinch and to some of my other race fan friends. And they always get a chuckle out of it. So I was like, maybe niche for, because although I love Indy, I still live here. It's my home. Will always be my home. I like to think that my following online is a little bit more national. It's not just Indy.
Right.
So I was like, I knew that there'd probably be a little niche, but I didn't care. It was fun, and I like to do fun things. And I got on Channel 13, so the in-laws and my mom and dad were happy and proud.
You mentioned your in-laws and your mom and dad. Let's go back to how this all got going. So went to Roncalli High School, right?
Yep.
And what was your dream like as a kid growing up? Were you a Jimmy Fallon, a David Letterman kind of guy? Were you a comedian? Were you more into the sports role? Where were you as a kid?
My dream when I was a kid was to be what PCA is now to the Cubs. I wanted to be the center fielder for the Chicago Cubs. And then I got to be, 14, 15, and I was kind of maxing out at 82 off the mound. Had trouble, putting up big numbers at the plate. So kind of realized that wasn't going to happen. But in all reality, I did always have an itch and a desire to be funny, make people laugh, impersonate people, do characters, whether it was at friends' sleepovers or whether it was, in the classroom, mostly when the teacher, wasn't around. That was always a desire of mine. I always was very interested in it. Like something that always was a real proud thing for me was when we'd be at Christmas or Thanksgiving and I could make my dad, my Uncle Tony, and my grandpa laugh. And if I could get them going,
that's a tough crowd, right?
Yeah, I mean, my dad, not so much. My dad's always been still is super supportive. Always, hey, I could do that, man. Yeah, which is, well, I guess, I've been insane enough to try to make a career out of this the last 7 years. But my uncle and my grandpa definitely, they because my uncle
get a job.
Yeah, well, my Uncle Tony, Chris knows he's only 4 years older than me, so he's always kind of more like a big brother than an uncle. But it was still, he was very funny. He was in improv groups. He was in theater. He was always kind of like the Steve Martin of the family. So if I get him and my grandpa and my dad to get going at Christmas, then I was like, okay, I like this. This is a good thing. And so from that mixed with, I always remember when I was in high school, again, I was a solid student. I wouldn't say honor roll, but I was like, I got into Ball State.
Yeah.
Couldn't get into Purdue.
There you go.
I get into Ball State, so I was like,
wearing
okay.
Purdue gear.
Yes. Yeah. Honorary boiler now, I'd like to think. But I remember I was like, okay, chemistry, nah. I don't even know if I got through probability and statistics and math. I mean, we're barely hanging on when it came to math.
What is that, right?
I'm like, I was legitimately, Dave, one of those kids that I raised my hand. Mrs. Toner, you probably know the Toners, Cole Toner's mom,
right, yeah.
Dave Toner, the longtime AD at Roncalli, one of my favorite teachers. But I literally raised my hand and I said, when am I ever going to need this? What is the point? And to her credit, she said, you're absolutely right. You're not, but hey, we just got to get through it, so let's do it. And so I said, I can respect that. But I didn't know. I was like, this isn't going to work for me. And I saw a quote from Dave Letterman in, funny enough, figured my speech book, my speech textbook, because I took speech class. And he literally said, math and science, I was always kind of a D student, but I had no problem getting in front of the class, in front of the audience and talking. And I kind of knew that was more where I needed to go. So I was like, all right, yeah, I mean, let's do this TV, radio thing, and just kind of ran with it from there.
So you go to Ball State.
For a year.
1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you got there and you're like, To
be honest, Dave, I was just like a homesick puppy. I wasn't anything against Ball State.
Yeah.
I was there. Pat Boylan was a senior when I was a freshman. There's a few other sprinkled in media members that you know of now that I can't remember, but I remember Pat Boylan, he had just won like the Jim Nance Award, and I was like, oh man, this is big. And obviously he's gone on to do what he does now. But I was just like, it was cool. I had a great opportunity. I got to be on the radio up at Ball State my freshman year. Had my own hour-long sports talk show on, I think it was WCRD, maybe? 93 WCRD. From 7 to 8 on Thursday nights. So I was like, holy cow, this is awesome. But really, my world was so small at that time. And it was a little bit, even going to Ball State as compared to, IU or Purdue, it was a little bit of a culture shock for me as an 18, 19-year-old. Like I just wasn't ready. I wasn't mature enough and I was homesick and wanted to come be back, with what I was familiar with. And then luckily enough, University of Indianapolis also had a pretty solid, really solid radio and television program that I was like, okay, because that was one of the things. My parents were like, all right, well, if you want to leave Ball State, that's fine, but you really need to we need to make sure that the next place you go to has something that is beneficial to your career. And then, funny enough, University of Indianapolis and Scott Eaker and all those folks down there, really good program.
What'd you get to do there that kind of started lighting your fuse a little more?
Well, I hopped in immediately, and that was another thing that was really cool about University of Indianapolis is like there was no waiting line. It's one thing about Ball State is like it's such a prestigious program that like you kind of wait until like your sophomore, sometimes your junior year to really get like heavy minutes doing play-by-play on air, and that's fine and all. There are a lot of people do it, but the second I got to University of Indianapolis, like a week after being there, I was calling play-by-play Division II football, and I was doing basketball that year. And at the time I was like, I think I want to be a play-by-play broadcaster. Like travel around with a team or work for a network or whatever. And like, you just call sports and kind of get to hang out with the team a little bit. I was always kind of jealous of like Chris Denari when I would see him just at practice on a Pacers road trip. I was like, that's so awesome. What a career that is, And so that's why I was heavy into that. I was really wanting to do play-by-play for basketball, football, baseball, softball, whatever. And then I took this class the second semester of my junior year, and it was called Writing for Television. And at the time, I thought it was just going to be like how to write newscasts. I thought it was going to be how to be you.
Hey fans, the Colts look good today. Peyton Manning with another 4-touchdown day. More next. Like I thought it was going to be like that. And so I get in there, and it wasn't. It was how to write comedy for like sitcoms.
Oh wow!
Like
spec scripts, all that. How to develop characters, how to develop pilots, shows. And it was just like the most light bulb moment thing ever. I was like, this is insane. Another real life question I asked my professor, I said, this is like actually jobs that people get to do. He's like, yeah, if you're good enough, yeah, you can make money doing this. Like you can make money developing characters and writing jokes. And like, this is unbelievable. It was the most fun I ever had in the classroom. And from that point on, I was like, this, the play-by-play and the sports stuff is really nice, but this is the direction I want to go, And from there, I somehow landed an internship sitting in a corner desk in a closet at Bob and Tom show and sending news stories to Tom and trying to write jokes that, didn't work at the time because I was 21 or whatever. But hey, I was like, I'm doing it. Like I'm trying, I'm going for it. And so that was really kind of the big light bulb moment that sent me down the path that we are now.
Okay. So parents, how do they react to this? Hey, mom and dad, I want to write jokes for a living.
like I said,
get a job, son. You had very supportive parents. It sounds like your dad was like my old man who said, hey, if that's your dream, I want you to chase it.
Totally. Absolutely. I lucked out big time there. My mom, always super supportive, biggest fan, but she comes from a background in a family that's a little bit more like, all right, but what's the real? What are we doing?
Well, what are you going to do when that doesn't work out? Son?
Right. What's the
what's the backup plan?
What are the 401k benefits for writing jokes online? What's that kind of thing? Which is fair. She's my mother, right?
That's what parents do,
right?
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
She's my mother.
Yeah.
You have children. I have 2 children. As a parent now, seeing it from the other perspective, totally get it. So there was a little bit of that. She just wanted to make sure that that wasn't an excuse for me to just go putz around and not do something, right? She wanted to make sure that I had like an actual plan. And, so I did, and I went for it. And from that point on, after I graduated college, I was like, all right, nothing was really working out. I tried to do, sports radio jobs. You've been there, the South Bends, the South Dakotas, the Ames, Iowas, or whatever. Nothing was hitting. I couldn't, just couldn't land it. I was delivering chips while I was also working part-time at MS, just pushing buttons and everything, just trying to make breakthrough any way I could. But even at that time, I was picking up all those shifts. I was doing everything, living at the radio station when I wasn't delivering chips. So my parents were like, we know you're working, we know that you are. So like, it's something will break. And then one day, sure enough, I'm at the station and I'm working one shift, and it works at those radio stations. I don't know if you know or the listeners know, but the board ops, have to have 24-hour board ops at that time. And so you wouldn't leave until the next board operator showed up. So we knew that the station wouldn't go off air. In walks Ben Polizzi. This is December of 2016. November, December of 2016. And we had known each other from St. Barnabas and Roncalli days growing up. He's 3 years my senior, but I was always, we had that kind of friendly, he looked out for me, I looked up to him kind of relationship. I was like, whoa, what are you doing here, man? Hey, I started picking up some shifts here. I want to kind of get into this. Sick. I didn't know you wanted to do that. It's awesome. And so he kind of, for the next 2 or 3 weeks, he was the guy who came in after me. And then lo and behold, like slowly but surely, I was like, so what's your plan here, man? Like, should we just do something? Why don't we just do something? He's like, not doing anything else. Yeah, let's try to do something cool and funny. And from that came where me and Ben started doing videos together, putting out sketches online and whatnot. Yeah, and I'm kind of just rambling now. You can stop me at any point.
No, I mean, that's
the
interesting.
background. Yeah.
No, I'm digging the background.
Yeah.
And so you started getting a little spark online. People like, hey, these guys are kind of funny.
Very little, but it was, it was like, it was like just that one little breadcrumb that kept you coming back. It was like that one swing when you're playing 18, and you're 25 over, right? I know you're keeping a real scorecard, but you just pipe that one drive, and you're like, "Ooh, schedule my next tee time.
I'm back for more."
Right. It was just enough. We would get a video that we felt like people really enjoyed, and maybe it got like a good amount of shares on Facebook or whatever, but it was just enough to keep us going, and we were enjoying doing it. We were like, hey, we're chasing our dream. We're writing. We're doing characters. We're putting stuff out. Like, we're doing it. So that was awesome, but it was a very slow burn.
What was your first big character that you went, oh, people are noticing? I know Saban. You did Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Was it
that was for me. That one was the one for me. Me and Ben's
You just started sliding into Saban. Let me hear Nick Saban.
Well, everybody asked him about what it was, right? Which one's the one that put him over the top, and it just so happened to be me bitching at my wife on Thanksgiving morning, all right? I don't know why it had to be me, all right? He's usually making fun of this guy over here. I like when he makes fun of that guy over there more, but it had to be me, all right? And that just is what it is. Yeah, so that was the Thanksgiving 2019.
Is that when that came out?
Yeah, Thanksgiving 2019. But funny enough, like the one that for me that really kind of started it, where I was like, maybe I should do more of this, was Andrew Luck. And because I remember I always tell people like, well, I went from like I would always be in those media scrums at Colts practice or at training camp or whatever, and I really only knew Kevin Bowen. And everybody else there, it was like I was invisible. I mean,
I remember you being there.
Would walk right by me, and that's fine, right? Like I was 22, 23. I was just holding the camera. I just, had a ball cap on. Like, nobody needs to go out of their way. But like, I just remember it was very distinct because it went from I was invisible, nobody knowed or cared that I was there, to when I would go to the locker room or the Colts scrums, then all of a sudden you would be like, hey, Andrew Luck guy, keep it up, or like Zach Kiefer, someone would be like, hey, wait, that was really good, And so I was like, oh, wow, like, okay, I'm not invisible anymore. People, they don't know my name's Joey, but they know that I'm the Andrew Luck guy.
So now I got to ask you to do Andrew Luck.
Right.
So give me a little Andrew Luck reflecting on his retirement.
Oh, Dave, it's funny you should ask, because it's getting time for you to be up there for retirement, I'd say. I know you still do the PA, that's fine, but it might be time to look into hanging it up a little bit.
It's been so long from doing him because he's been away.
I'm sorry, but if you... So I did a weekly segment with Andrew Luck for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, however long he was.
Did you really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
And so,
like post game, or was it because you do a player every year where you have like the once? Okay,
yeah, inside the huddle with Andrew Luck. I think it was on Mondays. It was on Mondays because he would come out in
kind of a Monday morning quarterback. Yeah,
he'd have a wrap on his shoulder.
Yeah,
he would say to me, "I need to take this wrap off, and you can't mention that."
Just don't mention it, okay?
Yeah, I'm probably fine.
Yeah.
What a great guy, though.
No,
Did he react to that? Did you ever talk to him about it?
Never gotten any reaction. As you can imagine, and one remembers, he's a very private guy.
Yes.
It was very much, everything was private. For the longest time, no phone, had no I remember there's a clip of him when Tom Hanks was in town to do whatever he was doing the month of May.
Oh, yes. He did something he did a flashback of, it was a historic piece of something.
Yeah, but he was there and they did something at the Children's Museum and Luck went up to him and said something and Tom Hanks was just said something about like, I'm surprised you haven't seen that online. And Luck was like, I think I'm a little old for that. Like, it was like, you're 28. What are you talking about? You can't be online? But then funny enough, so yeah, like I love doing luck and it was great. I was starting to get like, you and Anthony Calhoun's and Hammer, just indie people were like, oh wait, you come on our show or whatever. I was like, this is great. And then I'm on my bachelor party in August of 2019 and he retires. And, as you can imagine, I was there with like 15 other diehard Colts fans. And so what went from being a party very quickly became a funeral, and ruined my bachelor party and also put me in a place of, what the hell am I going to do next? I can't just keep doing retired luck,
Yeah.
Ended up kind of being a blessing in disguise because from there, that's where I was like, what about this Saban guy? There's something there. And, yeah.
So you do Saban, and that was the first one that probably put you nationally, right? Right?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like, I don't know, it worked out really well that, what I was trying to like find with sketches that I do is like, what's the hook? Like if it's a funny premise or like a hook, So for me, I was like, yeah, Nick Saban's known for like getting on everybody and chewing everybody out.
Right.
Thanksgiving morning, everybody's stressed. What's that guy doing in the kitchen when his wife is like talking to him about, can you lay out the placemats and stuff? Like, he's probably a little pissed off. And so I was like, I think that's pretty funny. It was like 15, 20-second video. I did it. And then like, just all of a sudden, ESPN's and Sports Illustrated's and like First Things First on FS1, everybody's playing. I'm like, all right. And then it worked out really well too, because then that's the year that LSU was unbelievable with Joe Burrow and his Heisman year. And Coach O was this, national celebrity. Yeah. So then I started mixing in the O and the Saban, and it just, people ask me about that too. It's like, why do you have that tie to LSU? I was like, well, that year in 2019 when LSU had that magic run, they're undefeated, Burrow wins the Heisman, Coach O's a celebrity, this rocket ship for them, right? Like, I was also kind of tied in my career, my personal, like felt tied to that because we were kind of on this like ascension together where I was like, wow, like things are working for me, things are happening, I'm getting opportunities just as they were also going nuts too. So I have that kind of tie.
How do you come up with a character? I heard you talking about this on another interview. You were talking about first you got to come up with a character and then you study the person, right? And then you record your voice. How do you go about that process?
Well, there's a few, because like I have the people that I impersonate. And then I have people, there's like kind of more original characters that aren't necessarily an impersonation. They're kind of just like an amalgam of a bunch of different people from my life. So like one of my favorite ones that I do is the priest, the Catholic priest. And that's not any direct priest. It's just me thinking about my life and childhood, growing up in Catholic education and the Catholic Church, and it's still being a proud Catholic, of just these funny little kind of priestisms and things I pick up on a priest.
What is a priestism?
Well,
Give me an example.
Thing that always cracked me up is like, when they try to make a comment on the game that's happening that day, like, or if it's Super Bowl Sunday, or if it's March Madness, or if the Colts are in the playoffs or something, they always try to be in it. So I'd always do that, like, NFL priest on Sunday morning of the NFL playoffs. And it's like, instead of doing a homily, he just kind of gets up there and just, says go Bears or something. And everybody goes crazy because like they get out early, everybody's, he's like out of characters. Oh man, Father Tom's cool. He's with it. He knows the Bears are playing and we got to get to the tailgate. So he's letting us out, so just stuff like that, football coaches, baseball coaches, they're all kind of just this accumulation of guys that I grew up playing for. And it's not one in particular, but I'm sure that there's some out there that could watch some of those sketches of me, doing like the high school football coach before school starts, giving that talk about how, you need to be gentlemen and you need to wear your hat the right way and all that kind of stuff. It's all just based on a collection of people. But then, the impressions, like I said, like with you, I live at the track in the month of May just as you do. So I'm constantly hearing you over the PA. And so it's just like nothing but in my head, So when I was in the car and did that definitely wasn't the first or second. Like I ripped it a handful of times and would play it back and be like, yeah, I can hear the, I could hear it. And it's the same thing with anybody else that I try to do. So it's always that mixture of, it's like a recipe of three things. One, kind of topic. What's the word from contemporary?
Topical.
Topical.
It's got to be topical, something that people can relate to right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Topical, kind of distinct, whether it be their voice, whether it be their mannerisms. And then the third one would be, okay, what's the hook?
Yeah.
What's the, you don't want to just be a guy just talking, like, so, for one, like recently, I did one. I was trying out Bill Simmons because I've been listening to a lot of the Rewatchables podcasts. I don't know if you've listened to the Rewatchables at all. Yeah. But again, like it's not my best impression, but I think for me, what was fun about doing it was the hook was everything he does in his life. He does like a podcast. So like he was a Little League baseball coach, and at the season end party, he's just doing all of the categories and the things that he does on his podcast, but it's for the Little League season. And so that's the recipe for me is topical, distinctiveness in their voice, their character, their mannerisms. And then how do I bring that all together for something that can be a fun or a funny hook?
You mentioned interning with Bob and Tom, iconic, of course.
Yeah.
Did you grow up? I'd asked you this before. Was Letterman your guy? Jimmy Fallon? Did you emulate these guys?
Jimmy Fallon, Frank Caliendo. I always had obviously huge respect and just kind of held in a rare air with Dave Letterman because I was like, he is A-list, big time. Like, and he's from here. I mean, this, so you have that obviously. But I think I was a little too young and he was too much on the back nine or so of his career. Where again, I respected, incredible legend. But for me, it was more of Jimmy Fallon, Frank Caliendo, Dana Carvey later on.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh, these guys, with the voices they do and the impressions and then how they go into them with their characters, I was like, that's really funny. I'd love to do that. But then Bob and Tom is obviously a huge one. Like that's what I grew up on. Yeah. Just like so many, everybody probably listening to this show, watching this, like growing up was just like Tuesday mornings in the car with my dad, just hearing, right? Like that's just all you remembered and heard. I mean, it could be, BWERRUN Beer Run. It could be, I remember one of my favorites was the first baseball game I ever played. I forget which comic bit is that.
I do, but I remember that
where he's Harry Carey with the Bethlehem Braves and the Jerusalem Giants. Like I just thought that was the funniest, most well written. Like I loved it.
Did you ever get anything on the air for them that you wrote?
I don't think so. I was like, it was just something to put on a resume.
But again, it was someone pouring into you and giving you a chance. And
it allowed me to be around it and in that environment. Yeah. And it did. It allowed me to, whether they're good or mostly bad, like sit there, listen to the show, hear what they're talking about, try to find different stories that I think would be funny, that I think that they would think would be something to talk about. And then, Tom, maybe even Chris, I think it was Tom or Dean, but they were all just like, find the stories, send them over. And while you're at it, try to send in 3 or 4 of your jokes that you think would go along with the story. So even if they weren't using it, it was still flex. It was still working the muscle. And having me figure out like, okay, well, what could be a good bit here? What's a good setup here? What would be a nice punch to be able to come in for this story about some lady in Florida who, was hanging onto the top of her ex-boyfriend's car with no shirt on, right? Like something like that. Like, and then I would send it over, and it was a blast. I was like, again, it was part of that. It was just this internship in college where I could be around it, experience it, put it on my resume of like, hey, I was around this show, but again, for me, I'm just like, this is unbelievable. Yeah. It's unbelievable that these people get paid to do this where they're just laughing and giggling with their buddies and coming up with stupid, as Dean would say, stupid, dick jokes. Like that's essentially was his whole, job that he'd say. So those guys, to think being like that 7, 8, 9-year-old kid riding to school, St. Barnabas with Bob and Tom on and just giggling because they're giggling. And then the fact that I got to like be around it somewhat was insane.
Okay, dad question. How do you monetize this now in this media?
So you've been waiting to ask it from the very start.
This whole media game has changed so much. I mean, here I am, anchorman, retired, and I do this podcast thing now.
Yeah.
Coming into my world, huh?
Coming in, hey,
I'll
here
show
we
you a
are.
thing or two.
I don't believe
it.
Do you have sponsorships, right? People sponsor you?
Yeah, so I wouldn't call them
Not to get
sponsors.
too technical.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's another. I'd say
It's interesting.
it's two questions. It's hey man, can you do some saving for me? Oh man, I'm just out of the bar having a beer. Oh, okay. So how do you make money? Those are like the two main questions that usually follow. It's always a fun conversation. Then I flip it back. Well, how do you make money?
Yeah.
And they get into whatever. I'm like, so it's a few different things. Mostly I wouldn't call them sponsorships. It's a lot of partnerships. So, for example, this past April, PNC Bank, Pittsburgh-based company, NFL draft was in Pittsburgh. They wanted to do, kind of a content series or a few pieces of content digitally. And they reached out to me. And so I partnered with them to do a couple of videos out in Pittsburgh at the NFL draft. Kind of, they had and that's what'll happen is they'll have like a gist of like, okay, we're kind of going for this angle. Excuse me.
And they want you to carry out.
And then you carry it out.
Yeah.
And, so it's a lot of red tape. It's a lot of approvals, a lot of contracts and whatnot. But that's just an example is like companies will reach out to me or my management. Hey, we'd love to partner with Joey on this. We're thinking these are the deliverables for X amount of dollars. And then me and my team and my wife will kind of say, hey, is this a good deal? Does it fit my brand? Is it beneficial? Is it, sometimes, Dave, as you know, sometimes there's just a dollar amount that's just too much to pass up on.
That's right.
Do it. You got mouths to feed, you got a mortgage, you got all that now. Yeah. So it's a mix of all those things. But I've been really lucky with, I've had super cool partnerships with, brands like Snickers and Gillette and Applebee's and KFC and, then there's like the longer ones that come in, like with FanDuel, so I was a FanDuel partner for like 18 months, did like an 18-month, or I did like a 1-year deal. And then they're like, hey, we're working with you. This is great. Let's expand this another 6 to get through March Madness and whatnot. So that's nice to have that kind of what would be in my world a salary, if you will.
Right.
Yeah. So
way cool.
All that you have those times where it's like, all right, cupboard's a little dry. Might have to start, shilling myself out a little bit more, My wife's like, keep pumping those Mahomes and Sabans, baby. Get out there. Voice. Yeah, exactly. But, that's kind of the fun of it as well is, it's always kind of that hunt. It's always, you're always working towards the next thing, the next big thing.
Yeah. Well, NFL season's coming up.
Yeah.
So you're going to be busy.
Yeah.
Right?
Hopefully.
Patrick Mahomes has become one of your newer voices, right? Or I'm old. I'm just getting onto this thing.
Yeah.
You've been doing that a while.
Newer, yeah. I forget which one it was that went. I started doing it because they had that. Obviously, that they had that huge run in 22, 23, 24.
So you've been doing it a while.
And again, but not again. It was just like, and I tried it for a little bit, and I was like, man, I don't know. But again, I kept coming back to it because I was like, it's so distinct.
Yes.
That it's there, right? It's so distinct. And then finally, it like kind of clicked with me when I realized that Mahomes is just Coach O up a few octaves and you just speak more clearly, right? So Coach O is,
hey man, it's not here. It's everything in the back of the throat. Talking about the Tigers and talking about going down the case, right? You can't tell you don't even know what he's saying.
You don't know what he's saying. It's down in the very deep part of your throat, right? Instead of doing, oh boy, down here.
You come up here a little bit more and you enunciate what you're talking about. And then you start talking about Taylor and Travis because that's all anybody wants to ask you about.
And that's where I found Patrick Mahomes. So that's really worked for me. Like I mentioned, I did it a bunch on the Stern Show. And when I went on NFL Network for the Combine, that's because I ran through a whole bunch of them. And then when I got to Mahomes, I remember that got probably the biggest reaction out of Rich and DJ. And then like different people in like Sports Illustrated and like awful announcing online were like, if there's one thing to watch, it's this Patrick Mahomes impression. And so then that's kind of become one that is overtaken the Coach O's and the Sabans, would be him. Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Thanks.
Stand up. Do you do some stand up? Didn't you do some stand up?
Do some stand up.
Yeah.
It's incredibly hard.
Yeah.
It's incredibly hard.
I went on the road when McAfee was starting out and he wanted to do a comedy tour, and I watched him. He did it across the state.
Yeah.
I think he did
the I-69 tour. Yeah.
Yes, it was. And I was very impressed because you're right. I was like, wow, this is really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've done it a good amount. I've done it enough to where in the fall of 2023, I did like a run of like 8 shows in different cities. And then in the spring of 24, I did like another run of 8 shows in different cities. Had a lot of ups, quite a few downs, all learning experience. But it was always important to me to add that to the arsenal, if you will, is just to be able to say, like, show, hey, I can go perform in front of an audience. I can come up with 50 minutes of material or so. I can tell stories. I can do jokes. I can do characters. Just because it's like a weird insecurity thing for me, I'll admit. But there's always this kind of, like I talked about over the top of the show, is like, there'll always be whether it's your uncle or your grandpa or a guy that you see at the bar who's had 3 beers. There's always be in my mind that kind of like, oh yeah, you're online, huh? Okay, internet boy, yeah, cool. Everybody's got the internet and you just use that. All right. And so for me, it was always just, my parents, my wife, or like my manager, stop thinking that. Like, everybody's on the internet. Yeah, everybody's on the internet now. And that's where the world is going,
right.
And so, but for me, and it's, I think maybe just a little bit of that, who I grew up as a fan of, such a fan of the Sandlers and the Fallons and the Dave Chappelles and the David Lettermans and the Dana Carveys and all these people who came up, doing stand up and then made their way onto these shows. It was like, okay, I just want to show that, like, it's a possibility.
Yeah,
it's
in your wheelhouse.
It's a wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Yeah.
I could sell tickets. I can get up there, like I said, and perform in front of a live audience. And then also they can come back and follow me online for the sketches I do there.
Yeah, I love it. You real quick, and then we'll move on. You were talking about the internet. My mom's 96 and has watched me on television for 40 years, and I retired,
awesome.
Of course. And so this spring, I'm like, hey, Mom, I'm going to start doing this thing. It's a podcast. Well, what's a podcast?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And she, of course, was like, well, it's not on TV, as this can't be a big deal.
Exactly. 100%.
She's like, whatever. And then people start talking to her about, hey, your son's doing a podcast. So then it became cool again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's totally. I mean, it's this like,
it's a whole new world,
what
man.
It is. And, what a legendary career, obviously, you had. And I don't think I've got to properly congratulate you, but seriously, big congrats. Yeah. And as someone in the central Indiana area, all I remember was the, Colts Sunday recaps with Dave Calabro. So big shout out to you, my
jam.
Man. Yeah. But yeah, it's always just, it's just, so for you, it's like, oh, he's on TV. Wow, he's on TV. He's on the actual screen. We could watch him. He's on TV. But then, for this or for me, it's like, oh yeah, he does that internet thing. That podcast thing that he does. It's never just, he does a podcast or he has a show. It's that podcast thing that Joey does. It's always that sentence that I'm like, just chopped liver here.
Just keep
not
doing
real.
You, man.
No, I know.
That's it. It's a whole new world.
I know.
Frontier. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
All right. So how do people see and hear you, though? You were just talking about it.
Yeah.
You have your own podcast.
Yeah, me and Benedict Polizzi, who I mentioned, another Indianapolis native, South Side, grew up with him. Some of you might remember his dad, Joe Polizzi, the former head coach at University of Indianapolis.
There you go.
Yeah, me and him do a show, These Guys. And so basically it's just 2 best friends who grew up together, and we sit and shoot the breeze about what we think is funny and make fun of, kind of the same kind of things that we do individually, but just together. So, we just try to be relatable and fun, and we talk about some current topics, every now and then. But we got an email line that people, the fans and listeners send in, and we kind of riff off of that for a while. So These Guys available wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube as well. These Guys LOL. And then my channels they're the same everywhere. Just at Joey Mulinaro on whatever social media device, whether it be TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. then YouTube as well, trying to pour more into that and grow the YouTube channel with some longer form series and whatnot. But at the moment, besides chasing my 2 kiddos around,
well, you have new content now, being a dad, right?
Yes, definitely a lot of new material.
You know,
a lot of new material there on the growth and the evolution of the kids. The wife, we're big into the Y phase with my son right now already.
How old is he?
He'll be 4 next month.
Oh, yeah.
And so that is always a fun game that I can't. I'm like, I know you're 4, so you're not doing it on purpose, but sometimes it feels like he's doing it on purpose.
Why?
Right. What, why are we going to Gigi's, Dad? Well, we're just going to go have dinner there. Why? Oh, because we like to have dinner with Gigi and Peppo. Why? I mean, we've gotten to 3 or 4 whys sometimes, and by the time he gets to the 4th, that's where I cut it off. It's like, no more, okay? Because we just do, son. That's where it usually lands. But a whole trove of new material, and I try to definitely tap into that and have as much fun with it as I can.
Well, you should, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is
Joey
amazing.
Mulinaro, you're fantastic. If
Love
you haven't
Dave.
heard his impressions, just go check him out. It's hilarious.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for playing along,
Appreciate
brother.
you.
It's Playmakers right here, brought to you by IBJ Media. Thanks, everybody. We'll check you next time. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for watching and listening to Playmakers, brought to you by IBJ Media. I'm Dave Calabro. I hope you'll subscribe on YouTube or wherever else you get your podcast. Until next time, we'll see you later.